Hello everyone, welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And Jacques Nienaber has just announced his side for the final Rugby Championship clash against New Zealand with just 2 changes into the side and both injury enforced, which is very, very frustrating. And amidst all the calls to rotate, and given the fact that currently the Boks are 3 losses out of the last 3 games, certain players that are not pulling their weight and continue to getting selected is just going to only pile on more pressure onto the current coaching staff. And very frustrating to take over a 45-man squad and pretty much only use 25 players. I think 26 players in fact in total will be sort of the amount of players that they use across these sort of last couple of tests. The only 2 players that come into the side are all injury enforced replacements, and the sort of the usual culprits all continue to keep their place in the side. Before we look at the team itself, please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. In terms of the team, this is how we will line up this weekend. So, the biggest change is a new front row in terms of the props, with Oxenchair coming in at loose head and Trevor Nyakane switching to tight head due to the injury to France Malherbe. As a result, Trevor was once again switched back to tight head. People sort of have gotten quite used to the fact that he's become more of a loose head these days, sort of reverted back to being loose head, but once again showing his versatility and swapping to tight head, which I don't mind actually. I think Trevor Nyakane is just in such good form and so much confidence. I think it'll work quite nicely. And I also think that Oxenchair has done nothing wrong. So really cool to see him come straight back into the starting lineup. As a result, the 2 locks, Emily Etzebeth and Lourdes Diago, continue. Sia Khaleesi, Kwagga Smith and Dwayne Vermeulen. I've got no issue with this pack. I think this pack was inevitable, especially Monganemi as well at hooker. I thought the pack was so good last weekend. You know, why would you change it? And we did have to change because of an injury to France Malherbe, so we've rejected it slightly. I think that's a very good change. I think it's a nice front row, and I think Kitsoff, Koch and Marks do a very good job off the bench. So let's not break a winning formula. And I think that Etzebeth, Diago were looking solid. I think Franco Moster looked a bit awful when he came on, so no issue with not bringing him back to starting up or anything like that. This is where my issue comes in. Is the unchanged backline for the 4th time on tour. This backline has been one of the biggest issues with the last couple of games. And how Handré Pollard and Willie le Roux continue to keep their place in the side is very frustrating. And, if you're not going to change 2 of them because it's the last one, I just don't understand how you cannot put Alton Yankees onto the park at all this past weekend. Handré Pollard, decision making towards the end, probably cost us the game. Once again, goal kicking. If he had kicked better this tour, we would have beaten Australia, we would have tied against New Zealand. He's continuously demonstrated that he's not playing at the best of his ability. He's not playing to the form that we know. His kicking this weekend was really, really poor. Continues to keep his side as vice captain. I think that's so frustrating because as a player, what sort of message does that send when you can watch players? You work hard in training, you worked hard in the off season, and you worked hard in the season to get yourself selected, and you go on tour, and you can watch a player continuously struggle week in, week out, and yet right now down in your heart you will never get that opportunity because that player seems to be untouchable at the moment. So very frustrating that certain players who aren't performing continue to be backed, continue to be selected, and this is the last game of tour. We can't win the Rugby Championship. That's gone. So we send the same out this team out this weekend and lose. What was the point in many ways? What did we have to lose by maybe giving Apollo Fassi a chance, by giving Alton Yankees a chance, by maybe sort of shifting le Roux out? And I think with no Colby being there, I think a lot of people calling for him to play full back, and a lot of people saying that he should be available, but obviously doesn't make the start of final 23. So obviously didn't manage to pass that return to play protocol, which Dion David said yesterday that everyone bar Markov and Starden did train yesterday, so that's also very frustrating. But what's the point? It just must be so frustrating as a player just to see your opposite number who you're sort of trying to push in training continuously fall short during the match situation, and yet the coaches still do not trust you to do a job. In terms of the bench, Jasper Wiese has come in place of Markov and Starden, who is injured. So apart from that, Malcolm Marx, Stephen Kitsoff, Franco Mostert, Herschel Yankees, Alton Yankees, and France Dane. First of all, Alton Yankees actually needs to get into the park this weekend. Didn't come on last weekend, and it must be so. As I say, it must be so frustrating for these players. In terms of the bench, I don't mind the bench if the starting front 15 were all on form, but I don't understand how Pollard is being picked on his current form. He's leaving points out every single week from the kicking tee, which keep coming back to bite us. Last weekend, he kicked 2 or 3 balls whilst we're in the 22, far too deep, and gave possession away. He's slipping tackles at the moment, which he doesn't uncharacteristically do. He's not in form. And it's okay to not be in form. No one is saying that he's no Springbok future. No one is saying you have to drop him out of the squad. But you've got to rotate. You've got to select on form. It's really frustrating that we've got people there purely on reputation, not on current form and ability. And what sort of message that send out? We've only got 3 tests at the end of the year now. And are we going to change for those tests? I mean, I'll be very surprised given the fact that we're just very hesitant to change at the moment. So I think it's very frustrating to have sent such a big squad over, to have players who are pushing their sort of counterparts in training, and yet certain players are continuously not playing well and being picked. The pack is fine. The pack did its job last weekend. But I thought that Faf de Klerk, Andre Paul and Leroux let us down a little bit of kicking. I thought Faf de Klerk's kicking was a lot better this weekend. In fact, it was very accurate. We were winning possession a lot with his kicks. But Andre Paul and Leroux have been under quite a lot of pressure for a while now. And the coaching staff aren't brave enough to wield the axe and say, listen, you're not playing well. You have to drop down to the bench. We will back somebody else. Marcus Pimpy, also somebody who's struggling with a little bit of form, but also hasn't had a lot of opportunity. So I don't think that it makes much of a difference if you bring in Apollo Fassi, apart from sort of the exposure argument. Springboks has been working very hard, so that's an easy replacement. I mean, that's an easy selection to make at 14. And David Linde and Lukanya were so much better this weekend. So I've got no issue with sitting there at centre. So if I had seen Alton Yankees at 10, even if they kept Leroux because didn't want to drop Pollard and Leroux, I could have gotten behind the selections. Or if we had seen maybe Apollo Fassi at 11, Alton Yankees at 10, even if you keep Leroux at 15, as I said, I don't want to see him there, but I don't think we've got a good enough replacement in the squad currently. But if you wanted to go with Damian Williamson, we could have gone to Damian Williamson, and I wouldn't have minded that, because at the end of the day, we can't win the Rugby Championship. I don't think that making those 3 changes suddenly means that we lose by a landslide against New Zealand. I really don't. I think the forwards are good enough to make it very competitive. So frustrating. But let me know what you think of the team down in the comments below. Smash like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen, and I'll chat to you soon.